Welcome to this special conversation on Business Redefined, your weekly, most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance, and economics. We want to talk about investment in the water sector, specifically matters agriculture. We have a big week ahead. 21st is the date we are all looking forward to in terms of the aggregate investment plan focusing on irrigation. And we're privileged to have the man in charge of the ministry, Engineer Eric Murithi, who's the CS. Karibu sana, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for speaking to us.
Pleasure for inviting me to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe just for those of us who might not have context, just give us some sense around what the ministry is doing so far in terms of investment in the sector.
The ministry has two state departments. You know, we have the State Department for Water and Sanitation, and also we have a State Department for Irrigation. More so, we are known by water and sanitation, because these are the services that actually we deliver to the people. But also, under the State Department of Irrigation, we have a mandate first to store and harvest water for irrigation, specifically for irrigation. Secondly, we have a mandate on flood control. How does flood control tie with irrigation? Because if you prevent farms from being flooded, then you have more arable land for production. We also have a key mandate on land reclamation. And you see, land degradation, water is one of the biggest agents of land degradation in the country. We work on land degradation and then make that land useful, most likely by irrigating the land for production. So there can't be irrigation without water. They are joined at the hip. So under the State Department of Irrigation, we have an agency that does water harvesting and storage. Now we have the National Irrigation Authority also, which now uses that water to actually develop the irrigation infrastructure and then convey the water to the farms so that the actual irrigation can take place. And all this, they have to work hand in hand, because one of the government's key pillars under the Better Plan is agriculture. But we all know, apparently, Kenya, 80 to 89% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid. That tells that we have a problem with rain-fed agriculture, because the rainfall in those areas are either inadequate or unreliable. That ties it to the idea of climate change. But over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture has proven, not once, not twice, to be unsustainable and unreliable. And therefore, the mandate of the ministry becomes very core on water harvesting and storage. Upon that, now we have some dams running. We have dams by the name Murithi that have been going since, I think, 2017. We have dams like Murithi that are coming up in the coast. We have Dhwak here that has a lot of heat to finish. We have Uma and so many other dams. Apart from that, we also have this, what we call immediate relief measures. You see, things like water pans and household water harvesting structures that are small in nature, but help in subsistence farming. But not to digress, Julians. The mandate of the ministry is first, very key. We have the 7 big irrigation schemes. I think you know them. Yes. Kinamoya, Ahero, Hola, Bura, Bunyala, Pakera, to name but a few, that we need first of all to optimize. So it's an holistic look at things on the mandate of the ministry, if that is what you want to know. Yeah. One cog links to the other, it becomes a chain. I see. So the mandate of the ministry is to develop infrastructure for irrigation under the State Department of Irrigation, maintain and operate the existing national irrigation schemes, harvest water and store for that purpose, and also mostly flood control and land reclamation in summary.
Fantastic point there. And that's a good segue now to the gist of our conversation, because if your mandate is to provide infrastructure, upgrade it and maintain it, flood control, and ensure we have adequate productivity, how do you mobilize capital for all this? And that is where I guess NISIP comes in.
Yeah. That has been a challenge. Julians, under the State Department of Irrigation, and considering right now we have like 740,000 acres under irrigation, while we have a potential of almost 3 million acres to irrigate, that is the potential land that can be irrigated, tells you that we are way off the mark. The target is by the year 2027, 2028, we at least get to more than 1.2 million acres under irrigation. And remember, irrigation is a devolved function because it's part of, in a way, agriculture. Because, of course, once we provide the infrastructure, agriculture now starts taking over. It's an interministerial kind of synergy between us. So financing becomes very key. And for us to actually target financing in irrigation, now we have developed what we are calling a National Irrigation Sector Investment Plan. NISIP in short. So what is this NISIP that we are talking about? NISIP is a systematic, properly structured framework targeting infrastructure development, first of all, and trying to create harmony in the irrigation sector with targeted objectives, what we are calling pathways, so that all our efforts are geared towards a common agenda. First, we create coherence in the sector. It's an investment vehicle in a way. First, to ensure that we optimize what we have in the sector. Second, to clearly highlight and print out the budgets required. Third, to project the actual acreage to be achieved in 10 years. And fourth, to bring all sector players and give guidance with clearly spelled and set out objectives to be achieved. It's like the way we say, lack of planning is planning to fail. And as a ministry, we have that responsibility now. And the target is 10 years. Under the beta agenda, and also what we call the National Irrigation Strategy, the ministry has a responsibility to rally and to source for resources. Dependence on the exchequer, the government financing, will not get us to achievement of those objectives. And therefore, we have come up with NISIP so that we are clear on the path, we are clear on the framework, we are clear on where we need financing, how to source it, and where to direct it upon
Mobilization. Okay.
And that is what NISIP is speaking to.
I see. You're clearly spot on saying that reliance on the exchequer, because of the constraints of the resource envelope, is unreliable.
Fiscal space, man.
Exactly. So I'd be curious to understand, what is the role of private capital in this? What is the plan around provisions like PPP frameworks when it comes to NISIP?
I said NISIP has 5 pathways. And I think I'll summarize them to you. One of them is what we are calling expanded farmer-led programs. Irrigation That is, this is for small scale farmers between 0.5 hectares to 2 hectares. That is around 1 to 5 acres normal land. How do we unlock that? That means we target these farmers. Some of them could have their own sources of water because there can't be irrigation if there's no water. And those with their own sources of water, how do we help them? We come to a synergy whereby we teach them on the modern irrigation technologies, capacity build. We link them to aggregators because a farmer is more motivated to do farming when he has a value chain and is assured of market. Then we have those farmers who have the land but have no source of water. This is where we have programs like what you call household irrigation. We do small farms. I think if you fly in Kitui, Makueni, this Ukambani region, you'll see every farm, most farms have a small water harvesting structure, what we call a water pan, to do the farming in their own small piece of land, which is, we are saying, is between 1 acre to 5 acres. So we invest in that for those with land but have no source of water. So we are calling it the expanded farmer-led. It is farmer-led. We are there to build capacity and support where we can to reap maximum benefit from those. Secondly, the second pathway is what you have mentioned, corporate agribusiness. Any developed country has serious farmers, and that cannot be managed by individuals, small, normal Kenyan citizen, small farmers. We are talking about thousands of acres where you can have mechanized farming, where you can have targeted production. If it's seed maize, it's seed maize. If it's paddy, it's paddy. And all that, this is where we are now looking to attract investors, key investors, key global investors in form of public-private partnerships. This is where, for example, our Galana Kulalu food security project, we have more than 1.75 million acres in those two ranches, Galana and Kulalu. So if we get someone to take pieces of 100,000, 200,000 to actually lease the land and do production, we are likely to cure our food challenge problem and solve our food security issues. So NISIP is very keen on that. And there we are targeting Galana Kulalu. We are targeting Bura. You know, the challenge with Bura, first of all, was the pumped system. The other day, since 1979, we have been paying more than 10 million electricity and fuel costs on a monthly basis to sustain that irrigation scheme. The land there can handle to a tune of 100,000 acres, but farmers were producing only 6,000. And now that we have commissioned the gravity canal, we are looking now to attract investors in that region so that we can have production to a tune of 100,000 acres. Those are very key in production. So the corporate agribusiness is targeting the blended financing, mostly private capital, which is what cannot be sustained by the exchequer, as you said, because of our fiscal space. That pathway, we need to expand irrigation in ASAL areas. Irrigation in ASAL areas is for two things: the subsistence farming to improve their dietary composition, and also fodder. I said between 80 and 89% of Kenya
is ASAL.
Yeah. And that's where we have our livestock, pastoralists, and people who actually do herding in those areas. Yeah. Now, but we have laggers. I think you've seen when it rains, the flood in those areas is like a sheet of soil moving.
Yes.
So if we target the laggards in those areas and we do storage of water, then that water can be used for pasture, which we call fodder, and it can also be used for small subsistence irrigation. So how does that help us? Every effort counts in this target achievement. And also, the pastoralist will no longer have to move from one area in those areas that will be successful to others in search of fodder. Because fodder irrigation, you just require to irrigate maybe thrice in a week. It's not like a crop that is very high, that requires a lot of water for it to flourish. The fourth pathway is what we call community expanded programs, community schemes. We only have 7 national irrigation schemes in the country. The community schemes are where now we, the ministry, working together in liaison with the county government, now develop community schemes like we are doing in areas of Mount Kenya, in the Western. And these schemes, once we hand over as a ministry, the county is supposed to have what we call CDUs. That is the County Irrigation Development Units. So far, most counties have not formulated those units. And that's why we're also inviting them to this, so that they are part and parcel, a partner in this journey. Once we develop the infrastructure, counties are supposed to help manage those community schemes now for sustainability and future prosperity. These community schemes are very key because they are organized into small communities, but sharing a common source of water. To ensure their success, the county CDUs, the County Irrigation Development Units, needs to first of all help in building capacity once the ministry has left. Secondly, operations and maintenance, because there is no need of developing an infrastructure for 1,000 acres, but in 5 years, only 200 acres is operational. Then we'll have lost the purpose of that investment, and there will be no value for money realized. So, and the last one now, that is the fourth pathway. The fifth pathway is now to optimize the national irrigation schemes, which are purely under the ministry. For example, if you go to Mwea, which is our best irrigation scheme,
Yes.
we are producing 30,000. We have a production of 30,600 acres. But Mwea irrigation scheme itself is 35,000 acres. We have the Murithi area that is we are developing the canals to open up the remaining around 4,000 acres. Yeah. But now, are we producing optimally in Mwea? Meaning that every acre is producing at its best capacity. So we are trying to revitalize and optimize production in the national irrigation schemes, either by providing water in areas where water is inadequate, like what we are doing in Bura, where I was, in Lower Nzoia, also known as Bunyala, where I was yesterday, by developing proper canals. Desilting the canals, the feeder canals, so that the flow of water is as efficient as possible, so that we actually produce maximally in those national schemes. There is no point of them producing at 60 or 50% efficiency. Yeah. While we can get
they'll be underperforming.
80, they are underperforming. Secondly, we are building capacity and now providing seeds, fertilizers closer to farmers under the government subsidy fertilizer program, and ensuring that farmers have adequate storage and drying areas, so that the transition from harvesting to actual market, we don't lose the what? Sometimes you might lose 10 to 15% of that crop in that transition. It was produced, but by getting it to the market, you have lost 10 to 15%.
So post-harvest is a headache there.
It's a problem, because poor storage, no dryers, these things that we can actually manage so that we produce optimally. And there we are looking to unlock almost 70,000 acres. Aggregated together, all those pathways now chart a direction for us. Remember, we have so many investors under agriculture, especially irrigated agriculture. We have investors who go directly to the county government, right? We have investors who are NGOs doing their own small, we call them model farms, to teach farmers. We have people who come directly to the ministry, and each is operating in their own wavelength. So these are the energies we are trying to align
and synergize them.
And synergize so that we actually work towards a common cause. If you go to the county government, they know the blueprint. If you come to the national government, and also this helps us avoid a challenge I found in the ministry, overlapping programs.
Let me hold you there, CS, and ask you, 21st of March is a big day for NISIP. Help us understand, because Kenyans should look forward to it. What is happening on the 21st and why is it critical?
So on 21st, we have developed the NISIP program that is meant, first of all, to sensitize any other party that was not aware of this. First of all, to come on board and have a conversation on where we are headed on irrigation. Secondly, we're inviting development partners so that we tell them, these are the pathways we have. If you fit in the corporate agribusiness, this is where our target is. If you fit on the fleet, farmer-led, this is where our target is. And also, we are investing also commercial banks in the country. We call them private sector players. To hear us out, so that when farmers come to look for loans and support from banks, they also know they can ask whether the farmers are geared towards the objective. So 21st is very big for the ministry, especially the State Department of Irrigation, because now our efforts for the next 10 years, our plan, our blueprint, our campus will be unveiled on where we want to be, and we beseech and actually request the farmers, county governments, development partners, private players, and also corporate, especially corporate players in the irrigation market. Even companies that produce technologies for irrigation, we all welcome them, so that we sit down, discuss our food security matter, look for its cure or steps towards curing it, and then lobby resources for implementation. Because without resources,
executing
a
it,
blueprint just remains a plan on paper that is not viable to Kenyans.
As we close our conversation, CS, do you have a ballpark figure in the 10-year horizon you're looking at NISIP? How much do you intend to mobilize?
Yeah, definitely we have what we call projections. It's like engineering. When you're doing a building, the QS tells you, or an engineer will tell you, you read around 20 million to finish your good maisonette and finishing. It's a plus or minus, of course, plus or minus 10%, because variables, things change. But our projection for the next 10 years will require around 598 billion Kenya shillings. And the exchequer can foot around 230 if we are properly resourced. You see, that's also a factor, because things can vary at the national treasury.
Absolutely.
And the economy, the vagaries of economies and times and seasons.
Yes.
So we are looking for investors to help us with around 300, almost 80 billion Kenya shillings. And that will be a key factor on three things: food security, employment, because agriculture is the backbone of our economy. We are not yet an industrial country, so agriculture is the backbone. And also youth unemployment. If our farmers are making money, it means we can attract more young people who are actually have the benefit of technology on their side to invest in smart irrigation. And as long as we have aggregators, they can cash into the bank. Our exchange problem, foreign exchange problem, because in this agriculture we're also doing horticulture. We export,
We get foreign earnings.
get foreign exchange, and our dollar problems zinapungua kidogo.
Yes.
And also the vulnerable. This is a point to involve the vulnerable. Most of agriculture in the country is done by who?
Our women.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to empower them and put money in their pockets.
Yes.
So that's the ballpark figure we are looking at, Julius.
CS, thank you so much for your time. But before I close, a parting shot.
It is only possible and achievable if you truly desire it. I always ask myself, how badly do you want it? You see, when you really want something to happen, nature conspires to make it happen. But also, nature is the effort you put towards achieving it. The ministry has put a lot of effort in developing this. Now we are on the home stretch. Implementation is coming. So my request to Kenyans of goodwill, to the corporate society, to our private investors, to our farmers and our county governments because of devolution, is let us come together, tuje tusemezane, as they say, and become of a common mind, so that when the cog shifts from the ministry, it will keep rolling in the county government, which will roll into the farmer, will grow our economy. That this is a vehicle we should all board. And kwa vijana wenzangu, no, I'm a young person, to my young people, is that there is money to be made in irrigation. Rada irrigation ni safi. Lakini lazima tuifanye in the modern way. Mimi mwenyewe nimekaa hapa ni mkulima bana. So rada ni safi, but we have to embrace it. Asante sana.
Thank you so much. We've been having a conversation with the CS, engineer in charge of water and irrigation, speaking about the investment plan for the irrigation sector, covering a horizon of 10 years and how we are crowding in private capital as well as community-based initiatives to help revolutionize agriculture in this country. We shall be keeping tabs on this. Remember, the 21st is when we have the formal launch. KICC.
Usisahau hiyo.
Yes, 21st KICC NISIP launch. Join us there and let's have a good time. Stay tuned.